Hi, I'm Julie with the Made for Grace, and today I'm talking about what is domestic violence or domestic abuse. How do we define that? How do we categorize it? And how do we get help? At the end of this video, I'm going to show you another resource that might be helpful for you. But first, let's take a deep dive into the question, is it abuse? Domestic abuse can occur as a parent-to-child relationship where one parent is abusing children. It can also occur in intimate partner relationships such as marriage. The key to domestic abuse or domestic violence is coercive control. One person wants to have power over another, so the other person has limited or no freedom. Oftentimes, victims of domestic violence do not even know they are in an abusive situation. I was actually in a marriage for 28 years before someone told me, did you know this is abusive? And the light came on. All of a sudden, my crazy life started to make sense. And from that time, I was able to reach out and get help. If you're in a situation like this, call a domestic violence hotline, or you can use the link in the description below to reach out to me at my website. I'll either walk you through or point you to a resource that can help you as well. Also, I'm recommending this book, Is It Abuse by Darby Strickland. And this was very eye-opening to me because it told about all the ways a relationship can be abusive. And the link to get this book is also in the comments below. So as I said before, domestic violence is all about coercive control. It may not look like hitting, strangulation, or someone pulling a gun, but it's doing just as much damage as if that were happening. The more intelligent a victim is, the more clever the scheme has to be to deceive the victim so that they don't know they are in an abusive situation. For example, physical violence is rather obvious, right? If I had known I was in an abusive situation with my spouse pulling a gun on me or hitting me, it would be so easy to make a decision to call the police and to get legal help. As well I should have done if that were happening, because that's a criminal offense. But what if the offenses aren't criminal, but they're unethical and they are destructive? Well, then you're no longer in a loving relationship. You're not in a marriage at all. You're in a power control battle with the other person. So physical violence is just one aspect of domestic abuse. And physical violence can include more than hitting, strangulation, or pulling a gun or shooting. It can include blocking someone's way as they try to get through the doorway. It can be using their physical presence to intimidate. It could be something as simple as slamming a cabinet door just to get the message to the victim that there is a threat, an imminent threat of physical violence. Oftentimes, in a case of domestic abuse, and I saw this in my own relationship, the abuse escalates over time, and it eventually does become physical in some way, shape, form, or fashion, but it includes other characteristics as well. So get safety. If this is happening to you, reach out for help. Another form of domestic abuse is emotional abuse, and this is when the perpetrator belittles or demeans another person so that he or she feels unworthy. And it could be name-calling, it could be criticism, always with a sense of entitlement that the perpetrator deserves better than you, but he'll take you as long as you're serving his purposes. Then there's psychological abuse, and this is the crazy-making part of domestic violence. This is where your victim's reality is being undermined. It can include gaslighting, which the term comes from a 1940s movie called Gaslight, where the perpetrator turned up and down the lights and then told the victim, his wife, that that wasn't happening at all. Psychological abuse can include statements like, well, you must have heard it wrong, or I didn't mean it that way, or I never said that, or you must be imagining things, or your memory's really going fast. I've known victims who actually started keeping a journal because they felt so crazy that they couldn't pinpoint what actually did happen in a situation without being able to refer back to it. And that may be a good idea for you too. Start keeping a journal of things that are happening so that you have a record of your experience. A person in a relationship that is domestically violent and abusive in these ways will also suffer physical consequences for the emotional, mental, and psychological abuse in their bodies. It can cause cancer, it can cause digestive issues, migraine headaches, and even chronic illnesses. In coercive control, we're looking for a pattern of behavior, not somebody who occasionally slips up, makes a mistake, sins against another person. Those types of things are part of normal human behavior. But what you want to look for in a healthy relationship is a pattern of repentance. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I didn't mean to do that. In a pattern of domestic violence, what we often see is a cycle of abuse. So the big crisis event will happen, a big argument, and one person is feeling deathly afraid of the other. There's always the threat of fear. And then the perpetrator will come back. We call this the honeymoon stage, and the person will say, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way. You're just the greatest thing on earth." And here she will love bomb the other person. You may have heard that term. And everything will be fine. And then the tension starts building and building and building, and we come right back around to another crisis moment. And when this happens over and over again at regular intervals, we need to be looking for some help. So again, if you find yourself in a dangerous situation, please reach out to get help. The statistic tells us that a woman in an abusive situation will get out and return up to 7 times before she gets free. You may not have 7 chances because as the violence escalates, the risk of death is even higher. If you're in a domestically violent situation and you're looking after children and protecting them, remember your kids' safety is also very, very important. Prioritize safety over the relationship.